Hello, this is Mikado Murphy with the New York Times. I am here with Kate Blanchett on the right and Julian Roosevelt on the left. They are here for the Tribeca Film Festival, where they have a film in the festival called Manifesto. And I would like to first ask Julian if you could just kind of tell our Facebook Live audience a little bit about the film Manifesto.
Okay, manifesto is actually an homage to the tradition of artists writing manifestos, artist manifestos. It is entirely edited out of manifestos from the 20th century and a few texts from this century. And Kate acts in it in 13 different characters, 13 different personas, all in contemporary context, and quotes from these manifestos, kind of reenacting them in a way.
How did you come up with the idea for what this first began as an art piece that then you turned into a film? Could you first tell me kind of how you came up with the idea for the art piece?
Well, I came across the reading of some texts, some artist manifestos during the research for another project, and by then Kate and I had already met and had the idea to do something together one day, and so I was looking for a while for something that could be good for us. I think Kate was terribly frightened when I confronted her with the idea for manifesto, because it was only text, and when we met I'd shown work which was only images, and certainly the idea was to do something maybe without text, and all of a sudden there was all this text material. Yes, but here we are. Maybe you want to say something about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask
a film.
I'll ask a question for Kate. If you could kind of tell me a little bit about how it was that you first met up with Julian, and how it was that you figured out kind of what to do with this piece.
It happened quite organically, actually. We met through a mutual friend, Thomas Ostermeyer, who runs the Schaubühne Theatre in Berlin, and at what's that long weekend called when all the galleries in Berlin open, basically from Friday to Sunday night? Oh, thank you. It's a complicated. But anyway, and so I saw. I mean, I obviously was aware of your work, and but we got chatting, and then the conversation evolved. Over kind of a couple of years,
yeah, I would say 2.5 years.
Yeah, and then you finally said, "I think I have an idea," and then we just kept talking, and it just happened quite organically.
Yes,
it wasn't. It didn't feel like we'd begun with an idea, though. I think the best for me. All collaborations start not with a mission to achieve something, but with a desire to collaborate on something,
yes,
and that was definitely the spirit of this.
We were both, I would say, very curious to do something together, and that curiosity kept on sparking around without really knowing what this could ever be. I remember us exchanging some weird emails.
Not that weird.
And seeing each other again, and I was not, the idea was not yet there, and then luckily I read 2 artist manifestos from a French futurist woman that struck me. I remembered my studies of art myself, and during architecture I studied a little bit of art, and I read a few milestones of artist manifestos. But what struck me there was that I just discovered that all these, or most of these texts, were written at a very early stage of this artist's life, and so all of a sudden I saw behind all this loudness, I saw a lot of insecurity and fragility, and a lot of possibilities to vary these texts and shape them in different atmospheres, temperaments, characters, and that was just the perfect project for Kate. And then we exchanged lots of ideas for scenes in which a woman or sometimes a man delivers a monologue. There were many more, and you contributed some ideas. Played ping pong for a while, and cut them down, then bargaining how much are we going to do, what are we going to do together.
So we do have a question from a viewer right now. We've got this question from Carolina Carretario, and she's asking, how was the creation process for each character? So you play. Tell us how many characters you play, and what that process was like to create them.
Well, Carolina, they're not. I didn't ever really conceive of them as being characters. It was more like a series of situations and sort of archetypes, and because in the end, I think the experience, certainly when it was a multi-screen work and you saw it in in a gallery or a museum, but I think even in this linear version, you get the sense of the common thread between all the manifestos, and so in a way they're sort of shades of the one person, just with different silhouettes. But I never thought of them as being fully sort of psychologically realised characters. So it was more just about not wanting to make the situations and the character too one-to-one with the manifesto. So sometimes it was working in vast opposition to what the spirit or the texture and sort of intellectual pursuit of the manifesto was, and sometimes it was much more aligned with it. And some of them were much more conversational. So for example, the one where there's a reporter and a newsreader, that was it was very conversational, but some of it felt didactic, so it felt like it's something that a newsreader could say. And then I think the trickiest thing that Julian sort of worked out and we talked a lot about was which was going to be an inner voice and which was going to be actually expressed. And so some of them were speeches, some of them were conversations, some of them were expressed as commands, and so therefore it was just trying to fit the situation and the character to that. But it was very kamikaze and quick. So even though there was a lot of rigorous preparation on Julian's behalf, yeah, the team, a lot of planning, which you have to do when you have no time and no money, but the actual kind of doing of it was very fast. So we sort of met a couple of days before, and with the hair and makeup and wardrobe team, who were kind of helping to realise all those silhouettes, and then just said, okay, well, they'll look like this, and we'll put this accent with this person. So it was kind of a bit, it had that thrill of doing stand-up.
Yes.
You didn't know what was going to happen necessarily.
You said archetype, and you could almost say that a few of them are almost caricatures, like the opera diva, no opera, the ballet choreographer, the mistress, and also maybe the tattooed punk. They are like very exaggerated characters. Also, one reason for that is also that in such a short time frame, in the installation, each scene just takes 10 minutes. You don't really want to elaborate an entire convincing character. And also keep in mind that those texts some of them are really very difficult to act out as contemporary, believable situations. Nonetheless, I remember extras crying at the graveyard scene when Kate said, like, from now on we're gonna shit in different colors. So she managed through her talents to make out of these kind of,
I always thought that was so absurd.
Dada sentences, real grief. That's her talent, of course. And also, what I found very fascinating, all these texts are collaged and re-edited out of many manifestos, many different voices. So imagine a bunch of friends sitting around a table and not agreeing on everything and having, different opinions, but sympathizing with each other. So you have to bring all this together in one scene to create a kind of, atmosphere of different ideas, different opinions, and all that has to be then brought together and focused on one single character or archetype. So of course this archetype character has to be acted out a little exaggerated, a little.
But you had that too in the work you did about the sort of the meditation on the Western, and they're all sitting around the campfire, yes. and they're all they seem to be having a dialogue, but they're all randomly stitched together phrases
quoting actually from politicians, from George W. Bush and Charlton Heston and also 50 Cent and filmmakers of Westerns and this, but they do it in the attitude of a real true Western cowboy. So that's the.
So you play against the text.
Play against the text, yeah.
If you are just joining us, we are with Kate Blanchett and Julian Roosevelt. They have a film called Manifesto that is at the Tribeca Film Festival, where Kate plays several characters. And we are taking your questions, so please send those in. I have a question from Alicia Yeager. She is asking Kate, which character resonated with you the most?
Oof.
I love that question.
It was yes. I am really like a goldfish. I swim around the bowl and I forget what's happened because I'm just involved in what's happening in front of me. I think probably the one which I found the most fun to play was the newsreader one, given that I was going to, we didn't do that on the same day. We actually did the newsreader the same day we did the homeless guy, which was great. It was no time to think. That's I love that.
Can you believe that?
Yeah. No
These
time
two
to
characters
think.
in one day.
But it was me playing a reporter talking to me playing a newsreader, and so trying to get as energetically different characters, and also it was a very easy manifesto to say. But the other one I really enjoyed was the lunch, the conservative family with all the taxidermed animals. You know, with my children and my husband got roped into doing that one.
That was fun.
I was very impressed with them. They were very
They were
focused.
amazing.
Great. Julian, if you could let us know, or let our viewers know, so the film is playing right now with the Tribeca Film Festival. How else will they be able to see Manifesto?
Well, it's going to be released in cinemas around the globe, as far as I understood. We have sold the film to many territories, so certainly in to the US and Canada as well. Yeah, and on certain film festivals as well. So far we have done 5 or 6 now. But it will play at the movies. I don't know when is the US release. Maybe somebody here knows.
May 10th.
May 10th. May 10th. May 10th is the release.
Excellent. We have a question from Thomas Weber. He's asking, what are your opinions of publicly funded films where crowdsourcing can be used to finance movies?
Well, that's in a way that's the way
That's
you're
what we
used to
did.
the way you're used to working.
Yeah. Well, maybe I can talk a little bit about my experience with funding film, because this project was not meant to be a film at first. It was meant to be an installation. But in order to finance it, I needed to get people on board who couldn't deal with the 13-screen installation, so they needed a linear version. Like Bavarian Broadcast is an art-interested Bavarian broadcast station, and the Media Board Berlin-Brandenburg. So they needed a linear version out of it. And then there's the art market for me that helps me producing works. I'm totally sympathizing with all kinds of crowdfunding possibilities in order to make something possible that is impossible. Also because normally when you self-fund your projects or you invent funding, you're much smarter and much more careful with the money you spend. And once you're in the industry, you're following the track that everybody follows, and projects just get unnecessarily extremely expensive. And it gives you much more freedom. So I don't know if that's a good answer to your question, but that's my experience so far, the only experience I have doing film. And I'm doing quite well with it because it gives me a lot of freedom.
One reader, Frederick Feetham, is asking the question, why is it called Manifesto?
Well, manifesto is just referring to all these artist manifestos we're quoting from. And I also believe it's a very actual word. Again, you know, when we started to work on this project, we were more thinking about a love declaration to all these beautiful writings from artists throughout the 20th century, and maybe testing or checking out if they are still applicable, if they have any meaning in contemporary society, to which degree artists can be visionaries of their time or seismographs of their time. And now, whenever I come from a screening on a film festival and the Q&A starts, everybody wants to talk about Trump or Erdogan or Le Pen, depending on if we screen it in the US or in Turkey or in France. So all of a sudden this project is highly actual. And why is that? Because these texts, they are kind of a call for action, but they're also beyond this volume and anger that are in them. They are very bright and wise and beautiful and thoughtful, and so all the opposite of anti-populism. Populism is just a vessel, an empty, hollow vessel with absolutely nothing in it. And these texts, sometimes they're very angry, but every single word is meaningful and very inspiring and really kind of triggers ideas. And I see people walking out of the film or the installation with kind of, like a very positive nervosity in the face, like they want to do something with it, and they think about what it means to be an artist in society, and to which degree we need to give importance to access to education and so on. So all these issues that are really, I think absolutely relevant and important.
But they're also even though they are a sort of a call for the people and the groups of people who've written, and their individuality and their uniqueness, they all have this kind of drive in describing something that's limping and broken, and that they want to force to break apart and to build something new. And I think the notion of populism is that it's not really describing building anything.
Exactly.
It doesn't. It's not. There's an urge to create something in these individual collectives of artists that's something new and fresh, and that's going to somehow change the world in a positive way.
Okay, we are talking with Kate Blanchett and Julian Roosevelt about their film Manifesto. We have a question from Ristinka Serafimova. Sorry if I mispronounced that. For Julian, what was it like to work with Kate?
It was wonderful. I could describe it differently. It was wonderful. We had
It was hell.
It was a mixture. It was absolute hell. Wonderful hell. Alice in Wonderland hell. You just have to imagine encountering another Kate Blanchett every morning in the makeup wagon, turning into one day a homeless man, the other day a tattooed
But it was
punk,
absurd. It was
teacher.
There was a lot of laughter, I think.
A lot of laughter, a lot of inspiration also. She gave a lot through her incredible energy. I mean, imagine she had to cope with these different characters, costumes, makeup, sitting in the van for an incredible amount of text for each day. We worked with tricks there, of course. And then knowing Kate now, knowing your incredible sense of humor, I remember you as a homeless man, flipping around your boogers over the lunch break. You didn't want to give up that precious time of rehearsal, so you just stick to your character during lunch breaks, which caused some funny irritations among the team sometimes.
Well, I know, it was a bit of food in the beard.
Exactly.
Which is not a problem I have
so
in
I
everyday
think-
life.
I think it was very exhausting, because we had only 12 days in total, so 11 with Kate to shoot this. Crazy, but also very, very funny and very inspiring.
We have another question. This one's from Andrew Nuno. Kate, if you could play any role that you wanted, who would you want to play and why?
Gosh, I don't think about. I suppose I should think about that sort of thing. I guess opera singers, and think about parts that they'd like to sing, or musicians think about symphonies that they'd like to play. But to me, it's a bastard art form. It's particularly theatre, but even filmmaking, and that for me it's always about the dialogue with who you're in. So there's no point me saying I want to play Hamlet unless there's a group of people with a vision about why you would put that play on. Otherwise, it's just a vanity thing. So I don't actually seek roles. I certainly didn't think I was going to play a guy with a beard with food on his face. I didn't Though I did want to play the bearded lady in the circus once, and that was the only time my agent hasn't returned my call. So yeah, I don't know. And all offers welcome.
It's lovely you're coming up with Hamlet, that's theatre, and the bearded lady is circus, and not with film. So you feel very, very connected still to the stage and to the originals.
Yeah.
Great. We have been talking with Kate Blanchett and Julian Roosevelt about their film Manifesto, which is now playing at the Tribeca Film Festival and will be in theaters next month. Julian and Kate, thanks so much for taking questions from our Facebook Live audience, and thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you very
guys.
much.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much.